Most popular places around to get coffee.
Get in line, but now because of their success, they're being forced to shut down. Jason Berry's live at Central and Camelback. Too much of a good thing, Jason.
Yeah, every morning, afternoon, and evening, there is a huge line of cars that pull up to this drive-thru to get coffee, and that is the problem. All those cars and traffic have made life miserable for businesses next door who started complaining to the city of Phoenix, saying the nonstop coffee chaos has got to stop.
Business is always booming at this Dutch Brothers coffee shop, with cars lined up non-stop at all hours of the day. But the great coffee and speedy service is no longer what everyone is talking about.
It's like almost getting into an accident every time you try and pull in because the cars are all right there.
It's just like clogged all the way to that entrance, like coming into the actual parking lot.
The Dutch Brothers at Central and Camelback in Phoenix has suddenly become too popular, with a wave of customers rolling in here, creating constant traffic tie-ups and an assortment of parking problems. It's gotten so bad that more than a dozen neighboring business owners complained to the city of Phoenix. Roxana Romero is the owner of Eyelash and Brows next door.
Well, I wonder what they put in their coffee. Because this was happening in Moscow too. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just that good. But I don't know, it seems to me there was something weird about down there, and then Dunga, the brewery that was right behind it. And recently, actually, Dutch Brothers has gotten broken into, I think, a couple different times, and same with the Hunga Dunga. So, kind of makes me wonder what's in there. And I don't know if you guys know this or not. I can't remember where I saw it. Probably on like one of those, like a detective show or something. But they will ship coffee, drugs with coffee, because it covers the smell of the drugs. And it just made me, I don't know, wonder about that. Wonder like, what is in that coffee? Why is it so popular? And there's been all sorts of different reports from the one in Moscow, tons of complaints in one day about how cars are backed up at Dutch Brothers, and then there's a couple wrecks down there, fender benders and all that kind of stuff from the same. So it's the same thing going on as it's going on here, and this is in Phoenix, Arizona, right? Interesting, huh? I thought so.
With clients unable to find parking.
I get complaints by my clients already. They're like, it's so hard to get in here. So I have to direct them to another way through the alley, and it's really hard to get in this little lot.
In an effort to accommodate the big crowds, Dutch Brothers shut down its walk-up window, set up more lanes for its drive-thru, and hired an off-duty police officer to direct traffic during peak hours. But it's not enough. The city of Phoenix recently revoked the coffee shop's permits, which means this Dutch Brothers will have to close down by next February. Plans are underway to build a larger Dutch Brothers down the block.
They have a lot of clients already, so...
Did you guys hear that they hired an actual police officer to direct traffic? That is wild. How much money are they making? I mean, they're hiring... We know, well, obviously, the house over there being guarded by police officers, that cost them a pretty penny over there on King, right? I mean, it's got to cost some bucks. I think that's weird. But look at all those cars. There was recently a photo of a car pulling out of Dutch Brothers, and it ran over a cone because a cone was blocking something, like those construction cones. Anyway, the car ran it over, and some guy had to walk out and dig it out from underneath this guy's car. Yikes.
I'm so excited that they're gonna be moving, honestly, because it's really hard.
Now we're hearing that this Dutch Brothers could close down by the end of the year if the new location at 3rd Avenue and Camelback is ready to go. If not, they'll close down around February. Reporting live in Phoenix, Jason Berry for Arizona's Family.
Look, here's what I remember about the beginning of 2020 when the pandemic hit. And we won't belabor all of the minor details about what happened when COVID first hit. But I remember talking a lot about how breakfast is dead, the morning day part is dead. We watch Starbucks sales take a dive off the cliff. What was different about Dutch Brothers in those early days? Were you guys scared, or did you feel pretty good about your position that you were in?
Put it this way, we've never been afraid. I think fear is one of those things that stifles people. It paralyzes folks. It's false evidence appearing real. So, as we go along our path and things that come our way with change, our crusade is to figure out how to adapt to those changes and find a...
That guy looks oddly familiar. Like, I don't know, he just looks familiar, like I've seen him in pictures, like in Moscow or something, which is weird. He almost looks like that guy that was walking out of the house for Maddie's birthday party. I don't think he's that same guy, but man, he sure does look like, I don't know, maybe those guys all look the same at that age, I don't know. Weird.
Way to make lemonade out of lemons, if that's what we're dealing with. And at the end of the day, our world is changing faster and more so than we've ever seen it. So there's a lot of moving parts and the game's complex, but that's, part of our DNA is change and how we evolve.
And I think when we went, when you go back to late March of last year and we don't know, our first case came down in Monmouth, Oregon, and people weren't sure about safety and what was happening. And what we did really was go back to the values of the company and really what Trav and Dane had started in 1992. And that was, let's make sure we take care of our people. Let's make sure we communicate at an outstanding level to the field on a regular basis. Let's make sure we follow the rules. Our jobs weren't to be doctors and to second guess. We were basically here to say, what can we do? And then really we also just leaned squarely into philanthropy, because we did get a lot of like, Dutch Bros is an essential business. Like, why are you guys open? And I think one of the key decisions we made in late March was that we donated all of our profits in April to a program called First Responders First. And we ended up writing almost a $3 million check to...
Wow.
I found that really interesting that they donated, it's almost $3 million. Are you serious? This is what these guys are making in a freaking month? Is that what he said? But to first responders, I think that's really interesting. You guys know that Kelley worked at Dutch Brothers, right? I just find, this whole thing wrapped around the first responders. Excuse me. Not going in the house or not being able to go into the house or not even being there. People said they didn't even see them there. That nobody saw an ambulance or anything there. It was just police officers. So what do you guys make of that? To me, that seems really suspicious. There's no pictures that we've seen on any, unless somebody else has seen them. I haven't seen them, of any type of ambulance or anything there. All there were the cops and their black trucks with the investigators. That was it, you guys. This never dawned on me till just now. Why hadn't I never thought of that? They didn't even come out there. I'll bet you they didn't even come out there. They were they even called? Now I'm questioning if they were even called. So 911. So when 911 is called, here, this is something to think about. If 911 is called and there's someone unconscious, doesn't like an ambulance show up and not necessarily just the police? That's an ambulance, like an EMT should be showing up. Where was that EMT? vehicle and people. Where were they? They weren't there. Oh my God. That even, in my opinion, pure speculation on my part here, but I've done a lot of caregiving in my life, right? And usually it's for people that, you know, they need care for a reason. And one of them was my aunt. I didn't know she was my aunt at the time. It was kind of a weird situation. And she wasn't like my, you know, the marriage type aunt. She just dated my mom's husband's brother. And so I just found out the roundabout way. It was weird. But she rented a cottage from me, and I also was her caregiver, right? Which is, it all ended up being really strange how it happened. But anyway, she was pretty sickly. She was very young, and she passed at 44. But I had to call the ambulance several times for certain reasons. I had to call 911. You know, that's what I had to call. And every single time, it was an ambulance or a fire truck. Fire trucks, why, you know, with something like that. I'm curious now. I'm really curious now. If something like that happens, and with the being unconscious, for sure you'd have an EMT out there, but would no one show up like that if they walked into the house and they saw what they saw? I mean, now this has me thinking big time.
Promotion. We didn't want anybody to think that we were trying to incent you to come to the window. So we pulled all promotion and just said, listen, we're here to serve. We're here to provide you a great experience. But we're not after anything more than just helping you out and helping you have a better day. You know, we did see day part shift, and we certainly had some labor challenges and things of that nature, but it wasn't anything that we couldn't get through. Really, it took the collective effort of the team to kind of help us manage through what was a tough April, but we got through it. And fortunately, we're in the drive-thru business, and we didn't have to deal with shutting down indoor dining.
I want to bring this back to the coffee too, because like I said at the outset of this, it was interesting to watch breakfast in particular. Just it took a while, I think, for breakfast to figure itself out. Coffee, of course, being a little bit separate from breakfast generally, but I'm wondering how the relationship your customers had with your product maybe evolved because of the pandemic. And I'll just throw out a personal anecdote for my own local coffee shop. I just remember suddenly going to get a cup of coffee and sitting in my car and drinking it felt like, you know, an adventure because I was getting out of the house, right? So it just felt like suddenly our relationship with these very normal experiences, like running through the drive-thru for coffee, really changed. What did you guys see from your customers, the way their relationship with Dutch Bros changed over the course of the pandemic? And were there any ways you guys tried to kind of harness some of that?
You know, guys, that's a really good question this guy brings up, is that Kaylee and Maddie and all of them, except for, no, Ethan must have been there for at least, yeah, so they all went through that pandemic, being when they were at school. So that must have, I'm curious what that did to, you know, think about this. Now, I don't know how they did that. I don't know how they worked that. I mean, did they still go to school and just wear masks? Did they sit 6 feet apart, you know, in their, I mean, how could they do that, you know, in a classroom? They only have a certain amount of room, you know? How did they work that? Was it all at home? Did they have to take classes through online or something? But imagine if they didn't. Imagine how taxing that would have been. All of them in just one place, stopped up in there, not being able to get out and do what they normally did, play their basketball. I mean, there was places here where the cops are giving people tickets if they were out on a boat fishing and they didn't have a mask on. I mean, there was nobody around and they didn't have a mask on during the height of it, right? And they gave them tickets. I mean, that's how brutal it was. So I'm wondering I'm wondering how that went down. I'm really curious now. And how it affected the psyche, the student's psyche. And I'm just kind of wondering if maybe this is where that whole animosity or whatever was going on between whatever frats were, fighting, they said with Ethan and the Davids or whatever. But I'm just so curious now, because it would take a toll on a person. There was marriages that broke up. There was, I swear, I think kids got the worst of it. I think it was horrific for kids, and I don't know, it's gonna, those kids that were born and that went through that with, like, especially ones that were, well, all of them, period, because you had to wear masks. Like, think of a child just in its development years, right? Any child. So kids learn from you, right? They learn from other people. They learn to talk by looking at your mouth and figuring words out and things like that, hearing you and watching your lips move. Your expressions, that's why your whole face is, for everybody to see, because your eyes and your mouth, nose and your mouth, they all, in your cheeks, as you smile, they smile or whatever. But with those pandemic, with the face masks, I bet you imagine how set back those learning years, those just crucial years to learn that stuff. Just body language and just facial recognition and all that kind of stuff. What it did to the kids. It did something to everybody. It really did. It's still doing it. It's not done, and it's never going to be done because they've already done the damage, right? And I think people became more reclusive, right? There's people out there that'll still wear the mask because they've got, I think, people that got used to hiding. Some people did it for a while for, like, fashion statements, and there's all different reasons they did it. But I think it's really brought on a type of mental issue with people being not wanting to go out in public, like being on lockdown still, I don't know. So that's got me curious about the frats and then of course with this coffee and the stuff like that. I wonder how they went about that. Did they keep it open over there or what? But it brings up some interesting thoughts, though, I think, anyway. Okay. I don't know how much further I want to go on this, but we'll see. I wasn't expecting to think about that through this, but it makes sense that there would have been some really, pent up with all those guys in one place, not being able to go out and do stuff like they normally do. That would be horrible. Even the girls, could you imagine? Oh my God. Ugh, all I can think about is the smell, how smelly it would be in the guy's place, not be able to, ugh, yuck.
Well, we definitely saw changes. I think that as things evolved and depend on what market you were in and so on and so forth. But the big change for us was definitely a shift out of the morning. All of a sudden our 6 to 8:30, 9 a.m. business was cut dramatically, and we saw all of that business, almost all of it, move from 9 to 11:30. And there was a big shift. So, just people out of their normal routines, instead of going to work, going to school, they were basically coming to us for a break once they got their day started. The other big shift we saw was the amount of items per order went up significantly. So we saw ticket go up, and it was just hey, I'm going to Dutch. Anybody want anything? And so we saw ticket rise quite a bit. And I guess one of the beauties of our concept is we don't really sell any food to speak of. And so we're really reliant on that beverage number. So we also don't do drip coffee. So we do everything from an espresso based. So it's a little bit more of, we serve the second drink in a day part. So if your first drink was black coffee at home to get your day started, we're going to be there for that second drink. So we just saw that second occasion move to more 9, 10, 11 a.m. And then we saw our afternoon business continue to do very well and hold up strong in afternoon and evening. And one of the unique parts of Dutch Bros is that we our day parts really spread pretty even across our business based on the portfolio that we sell. So we certainly saw things shift, but I'd say that dramatic one was that early morning to mid-morning was the big shift.
I want to unpack the drive-thru innovation thing just a little bit, though, because surely you guys, we've put a little bit of distance between us and the worst of the pandemic, right? I mean, things look pretty good from that standpoint. You must have one eye on the future. You must have learned a lot as far as operations and technology go. So when you think about drive-thru innovation, what does that look like? What are you guys looking at for the future that might, really update, I guess, the Dutch Bros drive-thru model?
I think our app is really the focal point, and Joff, maybe you want to elaborate on that. But to me, that's something that's an example of innovation that we've done just recently, and where that can lead us. So I'll let Joff answer that because he's very much involved in the nuts and bolts of it.
I like that big cassette tape on his wall. I think that's funny. It's cool. The app, huh? Interesting.
So I think app is definitely a start of it. I think how you transact with the customer. I think app technology in the way that apps are used, and maybe more consumer interface, more consumer interchange on app value and app benefit, I think is one key area to that. I think that we all need to be watching car technology. I think that it's maybe not so much the things that we have control over, but the things that the customer is going to get introduced to in their lives. And we're seeing, early conversations around vehicle technology and the ability to transact via your car. And you're seeing some tests happening with gas stations and things like that. I think the technology space is super important. We're watching carefully about pre-order and how do you balance, I want my drink versus the experience that we provide. And I think as you think about customers' expectation and experience, I think you have to be looking at that as the way that you offer up your drive-thru experience. There's going to be an amazing way to do that. And then there's going to be a way that people think of it as yesterday. And so watching customer experiences, watching how technology interfaces with that, watching the technology that the customer is introduced to, maybe not so much the industry, but the customer, and how you tap into that. I think those are all trends that we need to be watching closely. And I'm sure that there are various big companies doing that, and we're paying close attention to it. But I think for us too, we have to balance technology with our experience, because we have to remind ourselves that we're probably never going to be best in class in the tech space, but we will always challenge ourselves to be best in class in the experience space, and make sure that we don't let one maybe overshadow the other.
I think if we carry on the conversation with Elon Musk and teleporting coffees to everyone, that would be maybe the way for us to get best.
I thought we weren't supposed to talk about that.
He's not returning my call on him, man. I don't get it.
Are you guys breaking that news right here? Because you can.
Yeah,
I
there
accept.
You go.
The first teleported coffee. I like it.
Well, that was interesting. Kind of boring towards the end, but I like that guy's also the painting on the back of the guy's wall. What was it? Choose to show love to, and then I can't remember I couldn't read the rest of it. But is that does anybody know sign language? Was that sign language for love? The way the hand was. I was wondering if that's what that was. Anyway, I just thought this was interesting. This popped up on my feed, and this is a while ago that this did this. I mean, that it was an older. Obviously, they're talking about time during the pandemic, so that's kind of interesting how it popped up, and so anyway, I just thought I'd pop it up here because it just seems that there's just the pandemic part really got me thinking, and the first responders, that part right there. Where was the EMS or EMT? Were they there? Where were they? Where are the photos? Where are they? That's what I want to know. Where are the photos? Where's everything from that beginning part? Do you know how much they scrubbed that, you guys? Like everybody in that town. Locked down. Locked down. How does that happen? How is there no pictures of the students there? How is that never seen? We saw what we think is students in the road, right? The one that looks like they have blankets over them, which I still think it is people. I really do. I think those are the people they pulled away from the house that could have been actually in shock, and they put blankets around them. Could very well have been. Now I'm trying to remember that photo. Now was there an EMT in that photo? Does anybody remember that? My gosh, fireworks are going off. The fireworks have been going off out here for this last 2 weeks. I mean, major ones too. They're going off right now. Jeez, people. It's only 9:30. My cat's like, what? Gosh darn it, not again. So, back to the pictures and stuff. That's just unfathomable that college. Okay, first of all, everybody's got a phone, right? And that's the thing that goes on nowadays, is they just whip out their phone, even in times when they should be helping, and they still whip out their phone and videotape it for whatever, I don't know, 15 minutes of fame, I don't know, but, every one of them kids, and everybody that lived around there, they couldn't have all been gone. I mean, it was a hopping neighborhood, right? A hopping neighborhood. And it was that next day that they were going to be going on, or even maybe the day after that, heading out on vacation to their, or even if they were going to leave, right? For their Thanksgiving, vacay or whatever. I mean, you could still see cars all around there. Where are the photos? Where are the stories? Where are the news articles that are now gone? How did they do that? Now I know they're starting to trickle in here and there. We're starting to see more. So it's kind of curious. I'm very interested in that. How that happens. And can it only be quashed for like a certain amount of time, or as they start, because we're starting to see them trickle in, right? I'm wondering about that. I'm wondering if there's like a time period where that stays gone and then it starts, reappearing. Interesting. Just a thought. Okay, I'm going to pop this up, see what you guys think. I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this one. Very curious, actually. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I would like to know what you guys think about the pictures and like the EMT. And $3 million that company made in April. Jeez. I don't know how many places they have, but I mean, coffee's a racket, man, huh? Wow. Okay. Ta-ta.